From the moment I booted up this game, I could tell that Black Myth Wukong was going to be something special. If you're a fan of fast-paced action, stunning visuals, and intense boss battles, you're in for a treat. But before we get too ahead of ourselves, let's break down my first hands-on impressions about this game after spending my first 10 hours. I will be sharing what I think about it so far as spoiler-free as possible, so if you are somehow on the fence about getting this game, this video is for you. We'll be doing in a pros and cons fashion, so the first positive of this game is its very strong opening. This game kicks things up with a bang. Right from the opening sequence, Black Myth Wukong flexes everything it has to offer. The visuals are simply jaw-dropping, the combat is satisfying, you're immediately thrown into this visual stunning world that demands your attention. It's one of those openings that grabs you and says, this is what we're bringing to the table, but that is just the beginning. I'm expecting great things already from this game. However, I did not expect that I will be somehow surprised by the level of production dedicated by Game Science to the game's opening sequences. If you are looking for something jaw-dropping or entertaining, I think this game will not disappoint you. Just take the whopping 2.2 million concurrent players, which is a record-setting feat if I am not mistaken. Let's talk about graphics second, and we all know how good it will be. However, seeing the game right in front of me still hits differently, and this game looks a proper next-gen title in my opinion. From the textures to the lighting effects, it's clear that Black Myth Wukong was designed to push the limits of what we expect visually from a game. The level design is a huge standout, creating these immersive environments that make exploration feel rewarding even the paths are often linear. Another thing that stood out right away was the sound design, especially in combat. Every hit of Sun Wukong's bow staff has this weight behind it that really enhances the combat. Whether you're smacking around smaller enemies or clashing with a boss, these sound effects give satisfying feedback that makes each move feel impactful. While boss fight soundtracks are all great so far, which makes these fights even more engaging. Now let's talk about exploration next. Before this game's release, we had the impression that it would lean towards a more linear structure. However, after spending time with it, I can definitely say that this game has a decent explorable areas. Maybe you will not notice this in chapter 1, but in the succeeding chapters, it will start to open up. There are wider areas to explore, with hidden loot and optional bosses waiting to be discovered. And speaking of loot, as you explore, you will be gathering raw materials in the field for crafting new gear or consumables. It's a solid loop that adds depth without feeling overwhelming. In almost every 15 to 20 minutes, you will be finding an elite enemy or a boss, which keeps the pacing engaging and action-packed. You could compare it to Sekiro's progression. If you already played it, you will somehow remember Sekiro's pacing, since in Black Myth Wukong, you will be thrown into battle after battle. Since we've already mentioned the crafting system, the upgrade system of Black Myth Wukong is simple but effective, and it is already expected. You defeat bosses, grab their materials, and craft new weapons or armor. The skill tree is also easy to navigate, allowing you to respec limitlessly. So one tip that I have for you is don't afraid of spending your upgrade currency. I will be releasing a proper beginner guide for this game and other helpful ones, so be sure to subscribe. So because of this will allow players to adapt to any playstyle whenever they want without any penalties. I just really love this kind of mechanic, as you can experiment with different playstyles on the fly. Moving on to the next one, and Wukong's movement and physics feels amazing. His flashy moves are grounded with a touch of realism, which makes for an organic experience that never feels over the top. This extends to the enemies and bosses as well, who each have their own distinct animations and attack patterns that are just slick as Wukong's. Speaking of bosses, this is where the game really shines, and this is expected. Each boss feels unique and presents its own set of challenges. They have their distinctive styles and own lines to listen to, so remembering each and one of them so far, it's not a hard thing to do. And the ones that you are seeing right now are just early game bosses. and the overall difficulty so far is fair in my opinion, not as punishing as Elden Ring as one of the reviews stated. Definitely no walk in the park either. I needed to stay on my toes most of the time, but I did not feel overwhelmed. Every time I take down a boss, I can't help but to be satisfied. The rewards are straightforward as mentioned, which are upgrade materials that keep your progression smooth. Surprisingly, there are also NPCs scattered throughout the world, offering side quests that usually involve taking down specific enemies for rewards. These add some nice variety to the game and give you more reasons to explore beyond the main story. With all that being said, this game is not all perfect. Let's touch on the few areas where Black Myth Wukong could use some polish, and these are the negatives that I have experienced so far. First off, I did experience some intense stuttering either in combat or in exploration. While frame drops are occasional, overall, the performance has been pretty stable on my end. However, these hiccups can pull you out of the experience at times. According to recent reviews, this game can barely hold itself when running, but in my experience, aside from the mentioned issues, I did not experience any single crash and my FPS usually hovers around 100 to 120 FPS. Maybe Game Science already patched the game before release and this is the only thing that I can think of. I'm running with an RTX 4090 with the latest drivers and so far, I am having a blast aside from the occasional hiccups as mentioned. If performance is what holds you from getting the game, I think it will not be an issue now. On the other hand, I am not sure what is the state of the PS5 version performance-wise, so if you have any info on that, share it in the comments. Now moving on to the next one, and exploration can also a bit frustrating at times. There are invisible walls in certain areas and it's not always clear which paths or areas are explorable. You will find yourself hugging walls just to figure out where you can or can't go, which can be annoying when you are trying to immerse yourself in the game's world. The next con that comes into mind is the story can be a bit difficult to follow in the early chapters. It's not the most accessible narrative right from the start, so I am hoping that it becomes clearer as the game progresses. Fingers crossed that it all ties together later on. So that's my impression of the game so far. It's a visually stunning game with satisfying combat, impressive boss fights, and simple and yet fun progression mechanics. While it has few performance and exploration issues, and the story could use a bit more clarity early on, I am excited to see where the game goes from here. If you are on the fence, I definitely say it's worth the shot, especially if you are looking for a fresh action experience. I will also be releasing a proper review and more guides for this game, so stay tuned for that. So after hearing my thoughts, let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you planning on picking up Black Myth Wukong? And if you've already played it, what are your thoughts so far? Don't forget to like the video as it helps me a lot, and subscribe to the channel as more Black Myth Wukong videos are coming. Thank you for watching as always, and I will catch you on the next one.